I got a document camera so that I can try to show you on the Casio calculator how we're going to do some of the same things that we worked on today in class on the TI calculators. So the first thing that you need to know about these calculators is that it is all menu based. So in order to decide what you want to work on, you're going to need to use the menu button right here. So this first one is run math. So that's where you do like normal calculator stuff. The option button gives you some different options of things here. I think this one is matrix, yes, not math, so we don't want that one. If you go over, this is where you've got like probability, number things. Here you've got absolute value, fractions. So the option button has a lot of things for you. So I would definitely check that out. And every time you go deeper into a menu, you have to exit to get further back and further back. So I just had to exit multiple times to get back to the home screen. So this is where I would just do like regular math, 25 plus -3, ta-da, done, there we go. Okay, so some of the important buttons here, you've got your fraction button right here, you've got your variable button right here. Shift works the same as second on the TI calculators. Your on-off button is right here, which is always hard for me to find because I expect it to be in the bottom, but it's not. Your squared button and your exponent caret are right next to each other. And then menu, again, is where you're going to find everything. Exit is kind of my go-to when I find myself in a menu that I don't want to be. I just kind of exit until I get back to what it is that I'm looking for. So let's look first at how we would type in a function to graph. So when we go to menu, we have all of these options. So graph is number 3. You can either push the number 3 or you can arrow over to it like I just did. So this EXE is execute. That's your enter button. So that's where we want to go. Now I've already typed something in here, but let's say I don't want it. If I hit delete, it asks me a question. Delete that, yes or no? So F1, yes, I want to delete it. I'm going to delete this one too. Okay. Now the way that this works, these F1 through F6 buttons, they get reassigned a meaning by these tabs at the bottom. So right now, F1 stands for select, F2 stands for delete, F3 stands for type, and so on and so on and so on, okay? So if I want to type in an equation, let's do the same one we did in class, x squared minus 5x minus 7. And I would suggest that you get your calculator out and follow along with this practice. It's different than the TIs, but it's not harder. It's just you got to learn a different way to kind of search for things than we would on the TIs. So we just got to learn a little bit more. Now you see here my things changed to the bottom. We won't really need those. That would be like if we wanted to type a parametric function or a polar function, which we're not doing. So this is what we want right here. Now the main thing is to lock this in, we now have to hit enter. And now you see it's been turned on. That's why this is a rectangle. And then my little line came back over here. Once I hit enter, you see it also brought back all my menu options. Draw is what we want to do to hit the graph. So we use F6 to choose that menu. And here's the graph. So now we can look at a couple of different things. In class, we looked at the table. Well, there's not necessarily a way to go to the table on here, although that might be what this F6 does, G to T. Let's try it. Oh, that just takes you back to the equation here. Let's see what happens if I push it again. Takes me back to the graph. Okay, that's good to know. But we could also go to menu and switch to number 5, which is table. And we should see our function is already in there. Now if you hit X6, do you see this change now to table? You can hit F6 and that will take you to the table. Now you don't have to change anything in here to just type over and put in whatever numbers you want. Whoops. And so you could type in 3 instead of 2, enter. I guess you got to use the arrows to move up and down. You could put like 1/2, enter. However it is that you want to type that, but you can go in and change the values in the table and it'll evaluate it based on the function that we did. You can use this form, I'm guessing is for format. Yep, so that's how we go in here and change what we want if we want more things in there. I'm guessing this set, we can click on that, and that's what the table set was on the TI. On the TI calculator in class, I've got both here, we were going to table set above window. That's exactly what that just was here. Once you kind of get the idea of how these menus layer on each other, it'll be much easier to find things. So now again, I'm somewhere I don't want to be, so I just keep hitting exit. Now I'm back to here. Again, that was set when we were in table mode. You can play with some of these other buttons. This will change the style of it, the type of it. I'm not really sure what that does. So you can just play around with that a little bit. But I want to go back to the graph now. So let's go back to menu to get to the graphing window. And we're back to our equation. And we can go ahead and, again, you can do some of the same things, style, type, set that stuff up. And you could also use this button to delete. It'll do the same thing there, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit draw. Now, this, when we're working in the graph, is when these little words up top actually describe what the button is doing. So F2 is zoom. There's the zoom box would be F1 that we did in class. So enter, drag it down and over, and you'll get this little box, and it'll zoom in on just that section. Ding dong, there's the bell. Zoom standard, like we had on the TIs, is going to also be in here. You're looking for zoom original, and this arrow means there's more things. So if you hit F6, you see the very first one here is original, so I can push that and it takes us back to where we were. Now we can also edit just the viewing window. So we want to bring this y-axis down so I can see the rest. So that's going to be F3, and here's where I can tell it X-min, X-max scale, Y-min, Y-max scale. So I'm going to change my Y-min to -20. And now I just want to go back to my graph so we can hit exit. Remember, uh-oh, my lights went out. Hang on. There we go. I'm in here by myself, so the little sensor doesn't catch me sitting at my desk when I'm real still. So anyhow, now we're back to here. So now when I draw it, you see we've moved it down, so we've changed our window. The last thing that we practiced was having it calculate the zeros for us, or having it calculate the minimum. On the TI, we're looking for the calc menu. What we want on the Casio is this G solve. That's your graph solver. So if you hit that, we see root. That's equivalent to a 0. Roots and zeros are the same thing. Max, min. You can have this one find the y-intercept. You can have this one find the intersection, and there's more over here, but we won't use those ones in this class necessarily. So I'll go back. Let's start with root. So that's going to be F1. And you see it automatically found this one for us. You don't have to go through those 3 questions, which is kind of nice. So we got 1.14 ... So that's that first 0. But there's another one. If I want this one, I think all I have to do is hit the arrow over, and it moves over to that one. So I can just move back and forth between the 2 zeros. So this one is actually a little easier than the TI calculator. So that's how we can find that. We can go back to GSolve and this time choose minimum right here, and ta-da, it already found it for us. If we were looking at a function that went like up and down and up and down and up, there'd be more than one minimum. And so I guess you could probably just arrow back and forth between them just the way we did with the roots. And so hopefully that gets you enough to practice on that worksheet. Send me any questions you have. Just make sure when you send me your questions that you let me know that you're using a Casio calculator, and I'll make sure to have both of these with me. On your homework, you're going to need the E button also. That's above the natural log, so you'll do shift natural log to get that e to the x in there on your homework in case you aren't sure. Okie dokie. Hopefully that helps you out. I will see you guys soon.